Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Dark Souls 3 OST reaction, where today, ladies and gentlemen, as we are once again, I've said this for a while now, but I promise you guys, we are sort of approaching the end of our From Software retrospective. For the last nearly two months now have nearly gone by, where we've almost watched and talked about exclusively the OSTs from Software games, ranging from the good, the bad, the ugly, the tarnished, the twisted, the disturbed, and the magnificent. And here comes some sacrilege, ladies and gentlemen. Always good to start off a video with a little bit of sacrilege. I really like the Halflight boss fight in Dark Souls 3. Now, for those who need a bit of an explanation, I'll try and keep it simple. Just before you find Filianor and touch the Embrace Shell, you have to go through basically her own selected personal bodyguard in the form of Halflight. So once you get to pretty much almost the very end of the Ring City, you get told by an adjudicator through a steel door, "Go back, don't come anywhere near us, don't disturb our slumbering princess." Once you ignore the adjudicator, you walk through the fog gate, and the adjudicator, who is this enormous, tall but slightly slumbering sort of... Is he meant to be a giant, or is he just some dickhead who just stands there and just summons? Because it's an NPC you come across a lot in the Ring City, as these incredibly tall guys who summon spirits who are designed to defend the city from intruders. You stand there and he just goes, "Foolishness. The king's decree is not to be trifled lightly. I, Judicator Argo, will protect our slumbering princess. Spear of the church, defend our sleeping princess. Make haste." Now, fortunately, you can kill Argo pretty... to be honest, it's the first thing you should be doing in this fight is killing the adjudicator, because he can get himself involved in this fight. So it just... But because he's not particularly very mobile, you can get rid of him very quickly before the first Painting Guardian is summoned. Now, boss fights where NPCs are summoned isn't exactly new to From Software. This began all the way with the old monk, all the way back in Demon Souls, where he summons an actual player or an NPC to fight. In the case, and we've seen this before with the Looking Glass Knight and with Halflight in this case. I suppose really the big issue that people had with this idea is because it is basically retreading old ideas, and it's fine just as long as you can make it unique or very, very different. Now, here's the thing with this, is that it starts off with you fighting a Painting Guardian, which isn't too bad, but if you could defeat the Painting Guardian fast enough is when, I'm going to say the second phase of the fight actually begins, where you fight one of two NPCs. You either fight Halflight, who is just the size of an ordinary player, but has a very interesting, a range of miracles and lightning-based attacks, or you fight an actual player. Now, the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you're this deep into Dark Souls 3, specifically into the DLCs, it means one of two things. One, you've either already defeated the main game and you are incredibly over-leveled, or if you haven't defeated, if you did what quite a lot of people do nowadays, is that if you get through the main game and you defeat Lothric and Lorien, then you go all the way into the DLC, it means that, well, you're probably not as high-leveled as maybe some other players would be in this situation, and you have to fight a player who is probably already a decorated Lord of Cinder, and all you're left with, ladies and gentlemen, is having to barrage yourself, embrace yourself with a series of moves that is very difficult to avoid, very difficult to block, and basically you just have to face this thing head on. Now, with that being said, it's not too difficult. I mean, Halflight, the actual NPC itself, is not really difficult. But it comes across as more like a missed opportunity, this fight. It should have been more, considering how deep you get into the game by this point, because this is the fight this is basically the tail end of the DLC, but what redeems it is the OST, and you'll see for yourselves right now. Slow, haunting, and you essentially fight Halflight in the cathedral, probably of the makings of all the people that Lord Gwyn sent into exile into the Ring City. It's the hauntings and the wailings of those that Gwyn basically betrayed and succumbed to the eternal dark sign. Remember, Gwyn almost orchestrated this entire place to be built, specifically to keep those who fought their services in the war against the everlasting dragons basically under lock and key. Make haste. it's certainly when it gets into the second stage is when it erupts almost because, well, the last real line of defense has been summoned. This is they called upon what they believed was the only man capable of like earning the title of defending Filianor, which is kind of funny because again, whenever when I showed like the video about the Abyss Watchers and how Asmongold like defeated it in like 8 swings. Well, for those who don't know, when he faced like the Halflight boss fight, he did it with the internet on, so it meant he would have faced a player. But basically, he defeated it so quick that it never really got the chance to summon, and basically the fight had already been over. He only did about like half the work for the fight, and it was already over. So, but I will say it's probably better to actually face Halflight because at least Halflight has got a very distinct and a very, very sort of unique moveset. But I think it's more down to the fact that again, facing an NPC means that he doesn't have like very unique. I mean, the weapon, the sword he uses is the sword you get for when you defeat Medea, and the shield is something you can collect earlier in the game, and that miracle where he shoots spears out of the ground is something you can imagine you could just get when you collect all the spears of the church. So it comes across in many ways in this boss fight that all you have to do is just overcome. But it is also again just a reflection of how much the regression of power has like slipped at this point in Gwyn's lineage, because all Gwyn can summon upon is just one NPC who just sort of like is there to do his job, and he's been given the tools necessary, but well, they couldn't even think about putting anything like really distinct or anything like that. It just had to be whoever they could get and who they thought was like right for the job. So yeah, maybe Gwyn probably should have thought better about having some better defense for his daughter. But then again, I don't think Gwyn has always had like the best intentions for his children. They're just sort of more like expansions of his empire. I mean, the Nameless King was exiled and his name was expunged from history to prevent the Order of the Everlasting Dragons from coming back. Guinevere ran away, so she was just used as an illusion to keep the people of Anor Londo and Lordran under control. Then you get to Gwyndolin, who was just sort of there to protect the tomb, or to protect the sort of legendary weaponry you can get once you make your way down into the crypts of Anor Londo. And Filianor was cursed to slumber for all eternity to make sure that Gwyn's lineage or his reign would never end in the Ring City. What a dick he is, eh? But with all that being said and done, I still really enjoy it because it outlines probably the patheticness, but also the fact that how long has Halflight been in this position? How long has he been cursed to doing something that he probably had no interest in? Because it's implied that Halflight found his way to the Ring City, and he wasn't just put in there once the war against the dragons ended. Questions, eh? And with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this reaction to Halflight Spear of the Church, and I can't wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.